Yes, you guessed it right. We are going to create a real calculator. So let's get started without wasting any time. Okay, so as you guys know, first thing that you need to do is create a new project in Sprite Lab. Okay, but if you see here in this project, we need these sprites. The number is sprites and the operator is sprites like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. You need to have these numbers and you need to have these operators plus, minus, multiplication, division and equals to. So what I have done, I have already retrieved these images from internet and make it available for you guys. So I have this project calculator app, Sprites only, created especially for you guys. I will be sharing the link with you. So if you go to costume and here you will see and all these images are already available. All these numbers and operations you will already find at the end. Towards the end, if you go, you will already find all these images. So what you can do, you can use this project as your starting point. This is to facilitate you so that you will not have to go to the internet, find the images, cut, paste them, import them. So if you want to just start, this could be your blank canvas using which you can start your project. So I will share this link with you. This will be a link something like this. Okay, so what you will have to do, you go to internet, open your internet browser, copy paste this link that I will share with you guys. Once you have it opened, click on how it works. Okay, click on how it works. And once this is opened, click on remix. So this way you will be able to create a copy of this project in your own login ID. In your login, make sure that you are doing it in your, after you have actually logged into code.org. So make sure when you are going to remix this calculator project, you already have logged into your code.org, and in the same window, you copy paste the URL that I will share with you. So when you open this project, when you remix, it will renamed like something like this, remix calculator app, sprites only. You can click on rename and then you can give it any name of your wish which you want. When you go to costumes, you will see that all these costumes, basically the number and these operators that we need for this project are already there in this project. So now because I already have the sprites, I need not to worry about creating a new sprite. I will directly go to sprite and start putting the sprites together. So maybe first thing I want to put this umpire that keeps on always telling what is the result, what we are going to do. Let's resize it if needed. Yeah, I think I would like to resize it a little bit. Okay. Okay, resize it a little bit. And similarly, I will also start putting other number sprites. So I will start putting all these sprites one by one together. Put them at an appropriate position and resize them as needed. Resize is also needed for all these sprites, so I will resize them. Okay, so same thing you need to do for all the sprites. And make sure that your numbers operations are equal to, and this is the reset button has been placed appropriate at an appropriate position so that it looks like a very nice calculator sort of a screen. I already have this in this project. I already have put up all the sprites here. So in this project, if you see, I have only just put up all the sprites. This is, pause this video, complete this screen where you are putting all the sprites at an appropriate position with the appropriate size. And then once you are done, move on. Okay, so I believe now you have already make up this screen where you have all your sprites being placed at a right position. What next? Next, I want, you know what I want? I want that when I am clicking any of the number should the number should be stored somewhere, right? So first thing what we will have to do, we will have to take a variable that will store the number. This calculator we are making, that will either add, subtract, multiply or divide the given two numbers. So of course what I will have to do, first of all, I will have to take two variables for this. So I am going to take two variables, variable 1 and variable 2. I will also rename them as number 1. Okay, so this is my first variable, number 1, and then my another variable is number 2. Number 2, because we definitely need two variables. One variable that will contain my first number and another variable that will store my second variable. Okay, so I will also initialize them to begin with a 0. So we have defined the variables and we have initialized them as well. Okay, what should be the next step? The next step should be when I click on a number, it should start storing into this variable. So what we should do, we should put up the events. Go to events and take this particular event when a sprite is clicked. So I am going to do this for number 1. When number 1 is clicked, what do we want to do? We want the value to be stored in number 1. Okay. So something like this, it will be something like this. Set number 1 to here, because we are clicking on 1. So what will be number 1? Number 1 will be 1. So I will go to math and say set number 1 to 1. But tell me one thing. If you are clicking number 1 twice, so, say for example, if you want to add 12 plus 13, okay. So how you are clicking 1 and then you are clicking on 2. Then in this case, you will have to store num1 as 12. How do we do that? Okay, how do we do that? In this case, what will happen? Let me put up this say behavior here so that, we know what is number 1, or we can print also. For now, we can put up a print message just to see what is my number 1. Instead of this string, I will remove this. I will go to variables and I will attach num1 here. Okay. So let me do something similar for at least 2 numbers to show you how it is going to work. So number 2, when number 2 is clicked, it should be 1 here. When number 1 is clicked, set number 1 to 1. When 2 is clicked, set number 1 to 2 and print number 1. Here also print number 1. Okay, so let's run it and see what is happening. I clicked on 1. Number 1 is 1. I clicked on 2. Number 1 becomes 2. So what is this happening? I do not wanted this. I wanted number 1 to be 12. 1 and 2, 12. So what do we do about this? For a better clarity, we can, put something like this. String concatenation. So you can also take this concatenation as attacher and put something like this. Number 1 is this. Okay. Something like this you can put. Similarly, also I will put on number 2. Okay, let's run, reset and run. 1, number 1 is 1. As soon as I clicked on 2, my number 1 is not 12. My number 1 becomes 2. So what do I do so that my number 1 is 12 now? I will have to apply a mathematics trick now. Let me show you that mathematics trick. Okay, so I am opening this Excel sheet and I will show you how do we, when first time I am clicking on 1 and when second time I clicked on 2, how my number 1 will actually store 12. Now, how does it happen? Like the character or the digit towards the left is ones, then you have the tens, then you have hundreds, then you have thousands, and then you have 10,000s and then so on. Okay. So say for example, if I want 12 to be inserted. So first I am pressing 1 and then I am pressing 2. Okay, so when I am pressing 1, the 1 is at 1's position. So we are good. If we want to add only a single digit numbers, then this will work absolutely fine. But I want, as many numbers I can give and I should be able to add it. So what we will do in this case, see it very, very carefully here. When I am typing 12, but like 2 again, so what should happen? What happens? This 1 actually move on to 10's position and 2 move on to 1's position, right? Say for example, now I want to add on 126 with 57. So 126. So what will happen? I will again type 6. So as soon as I type 6, what will happen? This one from 10's position will jump on to 100's position. And this 2 from 1's position will jump on to 10's position, because the 1's position will now be taken up by number 6. So do you notice what is happening in this case? Every time you type a new number, because say for example, you want to type 126 or 128, the previous number shifts one position. What does it mean? Initially, its place value was 1. The place value of 1 was 1, but as soon as we type 2, its place value becomes 10. Okay, now it is at 10's place. And as soon as we type 6, its place value becomes 100. Its place value becomes 100. So what we will do? When we want to find out num1, okay, so what we will do, initially 1 was inserted, 1 was typed. As soon as 2 is typed, what we will do, we will shift it one place towards right. Shifting one place towards right, what does it mean? It means I will multiply it by 10. And then now because 2 is pressed, I will add 2 to it. So it becomes 12. It will become 12. Okay, it will become 12. Now I already have 12. I already have 12 and I am typing 6 again. I already have 12 and I am typing 6 again. So this entire 12, I need to shift one position towards right, which means I will say I will multiply it by 10. And now the next number or the next digit is 6. So I will add on 6 to it. It will become 126. So are you guessing how my formula is coming up? How this formula is coming up? My formula is coming up something like this. Number 1 is equals to number 1 multiply by 10, okay, plus multiply by 10 plus the new number which we are typing or which we are clicking on in this case, okay. So this is how my formula is coming up. Number 1 is equals to number 1 multiply by 10 into the new number. So this is the formula we will apply now. Let's go back to the project and start applying this formula. So here I was saying number 1 is equals to 1. Instead of number 1 is equals to 1, I will apply the formula. And what I will say number 1 is equals to number 1 multiply by 10 because it needs to shift one digit towards the right. So number 1 is equals to number 1. Because I need to multiply, so first I will have to go to maths and take this operator. Okay, so number 1 is equals to instead of 0, I will remove this 0. I will again go to math and I will again take this. I will again remove this 0. See it carefully how I am doing. Go to variables, take number 1. Number 1 is equals to number 1 multiply by 10 plus the number on which I have clicked. So here which number I have clicked? Here I have clicked 1. So it will be, instead of 0, it will be 1. Now I can print the number 1. Same thing I will do with number 2 also. I am just copying pasting the entire block. Only change that I will do is instead of number 1 here, I will add number 2. Why? Because yes, definitely I clicked on number 2. So I wanted a number 2. So let's see how does it happens with these two numbers. So I am resetting and running this. 1 number is 1. 2 number is 12. Wow. I again clicked on 1. Wow, number is 121. Number is 1212. Again, 12,122. Okay, so you can see now my number is coming appropriately. Okay, so now my number is coming very appropriately as I want it to be. So understand this logic. This is a mathematical concept that you need to understand very nicely so that you can implement it here and see how I have put operator inside operator. So here we need to plus, but before plus, we need to multiply 10. Okay, so this same thing you need to do for all the numbers, all these 10 numbers from 0 till 10. Take a pause, do it for all the numbers from 0 to 10. Okay, so I have it ready for my project. I have applied this logic which I explained to each and every number from 0 to 9. Okay, so as you can see, when 1 is clicked, number is equals to number multiplied by 10 plus 1. The only difference is plus 1, and when 2 is clicked, plus 2, when 3 is clicked, plus 3, plus when 4 is clicked, plus 4, and so on. Same thing I have done for all the numbers including 0. Okay, so let's test it. I am resetting and I will run it. So when I click on 1, the number is 1, number is 12, 123. Okay, that looks great. Okay, this seems to be working fine. So we are sorted out with storing number 1. Now is the time to store number 2. How do we do that? Definitely, that also needs to be done in the same fashion, right? That also needs to be done in the same fashion. So, but how do we recognize that number 1 entering is done and now number 2 entering has been started? So there has to be a way so that my program understand, okay, I am done with number 1. Now the next time when the user is clicking on a number, it is not number 1. It is part of number 2. So for this, we will have to apply a logic so that we understand that number 1 entering is done. So when the number 1 entering will be done? When the player will click on any of the operator, right? When the player will click on any of the operator. What are these operators? These operators are called arithmetic operators and they are plus, minus, multiplication and division. Okay, so what we will do, as soon as any of this operator is clicked, we will say, okay, number 1 entering has been done. Now get ready for number 2. How do we do that? Let me show it to you. So what we will do, again, we will take the events. Which event? Yeah, this click event. So I'm going to say here when plus is clicked. Okay, when plus is clicked, it means my number 1 entering is done. But how do we know number 1 entering is done and how do we save it? So if something we want to save, what do we use? What do we use? We use a variable. So here also we will use a variable. I will go at the top of my project and I will declare this new variable. I will declare this new variable. So go to variables and take a new variable. Okay. Set. Maybe I can name it as number 1 entered. So I am renaming this variable as num1 underscore entered. Okay, one thing you notice, when we are giving a number, we are giving name to a variable, we can't have spaces in it, okay? So because I want to make my variable name readable, instead of space, I'm using underscore. So if you want to make your variable name readable, because spaces are not allowed, underscores are allowed, you can definitely use underscores. So number 1 entered, okay? Now tell me, number 1 entered. If I am asking you, is number 1 entered? The answer will be either yes or no. The answer is going to be either yes or no. So what kind of variable do we use if the answer is either yes or no only? Okay. We use a Boolean variable. What do we use? We use a Boolean variable. So what are the values of a Boolean variable? True or false. What should be the initial value of number 1 entered? What should be the default value? The default value should be false. Because why? Because initially number 1 has not been entered. So I will go to logic. This true and false, you will find in logic. The way we find numbers inside mathematics, this true and false, you will find in logic. So go to logic, initialize this value to false. Okay, so my number one entered is false initially. And as soon as one of my operator is clicked, operator means plus, minus, multiplication or division. As soon as one of my operator is clicked, I will set this value to true. I will set this value to true. So again, what I will do, I will go to variables. I will take this variable, this set value. Which variable we want to set? Click on this drop down. Which variable? Number one entered. So set number one entered to what? True. Now, because, we have clicked on one of the operator. And when we clicked on one of the operator, it simply means, okay, my number one is done now. Now, going forward, I am going to click for number two. So, as soon as we click on an operation, my number one entered value will become true. So, same thing I will do for all the operations. Means plus, minus, multiplication and division. I will do the same thing for all the operations. You can pause your video here. Do it yourself for all the operations and then follow along. Okay, so now tell me one thing. We have my number one. We have my number one and we know the operator as well. That, which operator has been clicked. So we will have to store somewhere this operator value as well, right? We know this is the number one entering is done. Now which operator we want to perform on this number? Plus, minus, multiplication or division. So this value also we will have to store in a variable. So for this also I am going to create a variable. I will name it as operator only. So go to variables and take another variable, rename it as operator. Okay, I renamed this as operator. And initial value, we can give it to maybe a blank value. So we will go to text and we will just give it a blank value. Okay, because we don't know what is the operator at this moment. Now go back to your events. Go back to your events when plus is clicked. We want to set the variable. We want to set the variable operator value to plus definitely. So I will pick this set operator to. I will go to text and put this and manually I will type a plus here. So now I am storing. Okay, the value is plus. The value is plus. Okay, same thing. Let's do for all other four as well. This is multiplication. Make sure that if you are typing X in a small case or capital case, make a note of it. Why? You will understand it later. But make a note of it in set operator to X, that is multiplication. What are you typing? If you are typing a capital X or a small x. Going forward in the logic, we will use the same thing. Otherwise, your code may not work. And this is the division. Division I am putting as a backslash. Division I am putting as a backslash. Okay. So I have this ready. What next? Next comes taking the number 2 value. How do we take the number 2 value? So to take the number 2 value, again, I will have to use the same existing events that I already have. When 1 is clicked, 2 is clicked, 3 is clicked, right? But with a little bit twist this time. I will have to see if number 1 is entered or not. If number 1 is not entered, then the value will go in number 1. And if number 1 is entered, the value will go in number 2. Okay. So I'm talking about a decision making. If number 1 is entered or not entered. Okay. So what I will have to do? Logic. I will go to logic and take up this logic. Okay. So we will not use this because we already have a Boolean variable for this, which we had used. So we go to variables and we pick up this Boolean variable. What is the Boolean variable? We used number 1 entered. Okay, and because it is a Boolean variable, it already gives us either true or false, so we can directly use it like this. Okay, it itself becomes a condition because the output of condition is also a Boolean value, means either true or false. Say for example, if I put here something, if age is greater than 12, what will be the answer of this statement? The answer of this statement will be either yes or no, means true or false. This Boolean variable also contains the same value, either true or false. So we can directly use it as a condition. Okay. So if number 1 is entered, what do we want? We want to use the value in number 2. So I'm making a copy paste of this block, and instead of number 1, I will change it to number 2. Do the changes very carefully, otherwise your project may not run as needed. And what do we want? If number 1 is not entered, means else. If number 1 is entered, then it means take this value in number 2, else take the value in number 1 only. So I will also attach else block here. Okay, and I will say if number 1 is entered, number 2, take the value in number 2, otherwise take the value in number 1 and then print. But here we want to print both, not only number 1. We want to print number 1 as well as number 2. So I will remove this variable connector. Rather, I will go to variables and I will use this one. Okay, so I will use this one where I say number 1. I will again take I will go to text and I will again take this connector and I will say and number 2 is number 2. Make sure to change it to number 2. Okay. Same thing we need to do for all the numbers. Number 1 till number 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. For all the 10 numbers, do the same thing. But first, let me test it for only for number 1 so that I know that it is working fine. So 1, 2, 3. Yes, my number 1 is coming correctly. Plus 23. Okay, I have not done it for 2 and 3. I should have tested it only for 1. So let me run it. 1, 1, number 1 is fine. I clicked on plus and then again I am clicking on 1. So yes, now the number 2 becomes 11 or whatever I am, printing here. So what does it mean? There should be a space here so that it is more readable. So I will also add up a space here. So what does it mean? What I am going to do? I will simply copy this if statement, paste it. The entire if statement will get copy and pasted, and do the same thing for all the numbers. Make sure that when you are doing this copy and paste, make sure that you are changing the numbers as required. So what does it mean? Because we are clicking on 2, this one will become 2 now. This one will also become 2 now. And this will not be needed. This is an extra block now, which you will have to remove. Print. Also, you can remove this one and just simply copy paste this one. You can simply copy paste this one. Okay. Similarly, make the changes for number 3. My number 3 has gone down, but that's okay. I will first make the changes for number 4. I will just copy paste. Attach it with number 4. Remove this, and then attach the entire if block here and this print statement also. Make sure to change this to number 4 everywhere at these 2 places. Okay, it remained here as 1 only, so let me correct this. Be very careful. Be very careful. Do this for all the numbers. Pause the video here and do this for all the numbers. Okay. Okay, so I have it ready for all the numbers, the same logic. Let me see if I have done it correctly, and then we will test it. Okay, so if number 1 is entered, then we are going to enter number 2. This is 1, else it is number 1, because number 1 is still not entered. We have not clicked on any of the operator. And then we are here printing the number 1 and number 2. Okay, I'm just quickly checking if I have not made any mistake. It is always a good practice. See, here I have made a mistake. If 0 is clicked, I am, clicking, adding 7. It should be 0. So good, I took a glance and I could correct it quickly. Okay, fine. Other things looks good to me. I will quickly give it a test. I run it. So 23. Yes, looks good. Plus 56. Yes, looks good. Fine. Reset. I will again give it a test. I will again test it. 50. Run. 58. Multiply 96. Okay, very good. I will again reset and run. 90 minus 45. Okay, so it seems that number 1 and number 2 are being stored correctly. That's all for this session. Keep this ready, and in the next session we will complete this calculator completely. See you soon. Bye bye.